Welcome to the Retail Reality Show.
I love that song. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Retail Reality Show. With me today, my dear friend Nicholas. Nicholas, how are you today?
Hey, I am quite okay. I'm sweating because it's super warm. I'm in Basel, Switzerland. It's 35 degrees and just like everywhere else, we're actually yearning for rain now. So we've been waiting for summer for so long, and now the summer is there, and now we think it's summer is too much. But in the end, I'm good. How about yourself?
Same. Sweating like hell. So luckily we had the thunderstorm 10 minutes ago. So temperature is at an okay level, but I'm still sweating like hell. So now that we have clarified that and everybody's sweating, let's get to our show. And I'm thrilled we have an amazing guest. So we are really busy, as you know, getting the best interviewees and guests for you in the retail world. But today we have a very special guest. We have Yael Kochman from Israel. And Yael and myself met a long time ago. We kept in touch. Yael is busy building the retail tech ecosystem in Israel. Thank you for joining, Yael, today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm not sweating because I have the AC on. I think it's been on 24/7 since May, probably. You don't want to check out our electricity bill. It's horrible. Yeah, it's horrific, but it's the only way to survive it.
Yeah, so even more thank you for joining at such late hour today. I think we have some great stuff to discuss. But before we do that, maybe Yael, you want to quickly introduce yourself. So what are you coming from? What are you doing in Israel?
Sure. What am I doing? I don't know. I'm doing a lot of things, but somehow everything is connected to retail technology and innovation. And to be honest, I actually got into the retail space by accident, you can say, like all the good things. I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was a little girl. You can see all my notebooks from fourth grade filled with designs of dresses and suits and like whole collections. And it was really my dream. And then at some point, I realized that this dream is not good enough. And I went on to other things, and I started, working in sales and marketing, and I got an MBA. And then I decided to start my own company. And that's when I went back to my old passion for fashion. So I actually built one of the first fashion marketplaces in Israel. So we were helping young emerging designers to basically market their designs internationally. So, designers are very, very creative people. However, they don't really lack the business skills. They don't know how to price products, how to market them, how to brand them. So my partner and I decided to do all of that for them, and we created a marketplace, which was back then called Il Couture. That was in 2011. So just the beginning of e-commerce in Israel. We're always a little bit behind in Israel, but then once we start something, we catch on really fast because we're early adopters. But back then it was very, very, very early. We learned so much from building that company, and then obviously it failed miserably, mostly because of logistics issues. If you want, we can get to that afterwards. But shipping products outside of Israel is a real challenge, apparently. And we didn't take that into account. But what happened as a result of that was that I really got into this space of, the retail technologies and the innovation. And I decided to create a community. So in the beginning, the community was called Fashion Tech. I invited 5 friends. I created the first gathering in a coffee shop, and I invited those 5 friends, and then 50 people signed up and 35 people came. And I was like, okay, who are these people? Why are they here? Exactly. And apparently there was a gap here in Israel because nobody was back then talking not about fashion technology, not about retail technology, not about e-commerce technology. There was just nothing, no communities, no ecosystems, nothing. And we just, from the first meetup, we grew very, very quickly. I think within 2 or 3 years, we already had 2,000 members in the community. And a few years later, in 2017, we rebranded the fashion tech community into what's today is called Retech. And it's now more than a community because at some point we also created an innovation hub, and we started working with some really big companies like ASOS, Farfetch, eBay, Marks and Spencer, many other companies, and really helping them to accelerate innovation by partnering with innovative tech solutions. So this is a little bit about my journey. Today, I'm wearing a few hats. So I'm still obviously leading Retech, but at the same time, I'm also leading the marketing for a startup called Bywin, which is a video commerce platform. We can talk about that later as well. And I'm also one of the top retail experts by Rethink Retail. So I'm also involved there in steering the community of global retail leaders, which is an amazing community of senior retail executives coming together to shape the future of retail. I know it's big words, but basically we have like monthly gatherings and thinking groups and events and all kinds of stuff, and really trying to create something, kind of global and exciting. So that's in a nutshell.
Well, and one thing actually that you just said struck me quite a lot, because when I was a young boy, I was not just working only in retail because my mother had a retail shop, but I got my first computer when I was 10, and I had an antivirus program from, I think, Carmel. That was one of the first Israel companies I knew because they did antivirus, and so I thought Israel was always cutting edge and leading in technology. And you just said we are always late. But when we start, we do it fast. We have a steep adoption curve. That's new. Thank you for that.
I was actually expecting you to tell us that you're into fashion design, Nino. But
I think Gen AI can do that better.
Yeah.
I also got my first computer when I was 10.
Cool.
Fun times. I had a computer with the
of discs.
VGA, like the three colors. You could switch between blue, green, and purple or something like that. And basically that's it. And you had to type, right? We didn't have any operating system. So you had to actually type the commands that you wanted the computer to do. And, kids today, they have no idea what that is.
I had the Commodore C64, and then I had the first PC, 368 DX40.
Yeah, 368, exactly.
Yeah.
Now everyone know how old we are.
Yes. Right, icebreakers. Should we start? We've got a couple of icebreakers for you, Yael. So 3 short questions. For yourself, do you shop in-store or online?
Mostly online, I guess. Honestly, especially relative to a person that's working in retail tech and all that, I hate shopping. So I try to avoid it. I'm looking forward to the day where everything I would want to buy will just magically appear in my refrigerator or my closet, and I wouldn't have to worry about it.
I think Scott Galloway said that in a podcast a few years ago. His theme was, I forgot the exact term, how he coined it, but he said that's kind of like a TikTok feed, which learns by interacting with you. Retailers in the future will just learn that too, based on your behavior, browsing behavior, shopping behavior, and they can just send you stuff because they know Yael will like it. Yeah,
and they will know the frequency as well. And
which brings us to the next question: Amazon or Temu, or none?
Actually, none really. Just because they don't really, work in Israel. We can order from Amazon, but it's not worth it with shipping and everything. We don't have Amazon Prime in Israel. So most Israelis buy on AliExpress. Or local marketplaces.
Interesting. And if I may ask, like AliExpress, how is it seen? Is it something that's seen as actually cheap quality, or is it seen as something, well, it's the only option we have, or how do people look at it? Because here, I would say it's considered more of a bit of an extravagant, cheap option to buy directly in China, sort of as the predecessor of Temu. How do people look at it in Israel?
So I think it's depends who. Same with Shein, by the way. Like my sister buys a lot of clothing on Shein. I tried a few times. I was never able to get anything that fit me or looked in high quality. Everything really looked bad, but when she's buying, it actually looks good. So maybe it's just a way of knowing what you're looking for, and in those marketplaces that are very cheap, you need to really be able to find the right products, and some people just have it.
Cool. So last icebreaker, and then we go into the real discussions, the real deep stuff. So there's two most important trade shows that all of us go to, and the question is it Shop Talk or NRF you like better?
Shop Talk for sure. I mean, NRF is too big for me, too overwhelming. And it's also very broad. It's just retail in general, and it's not really focusing specifically on innovation. And, Shop Talk is also, broader than innovation, but still the entire kind of feeling and the content is more, leaning towards, okay, what are the trends? What are we doing that could be better? How do we leverage innovation and technology and things like that? So definitely Shop Talk.
Agree. Also, I was at Shop Talk this year the first time, and also the speed dating. I didn't expect anything, and I was quite surprised and positively surprised afterwards, because I got a lot of new interesting contacts afterwards.
Yeah, we actually took inspiration from that motto also for the Retail Disrupt events that we were holding this year, and also got really good feedback, and already know of a few deals, a few partnerships that came out from those meetings. So I think it's amazing to have a short meeting of only 15 minutes. It's really not wasting anyone's time. You're just literally getting a taste of each other, and then if there is a good fit, you can take it forward, and if not, then you only wasted 15 minutes. So it's a great model.
So hope to see every one of you guys
and I don't have any
now next year.
Definitely. No, just saying that I don't have any ownership at Shop Talk, or any not getting anything from saying that.
Book your speed dating slot with Yael now before they are sold out. Cool. Okay, so let's deep dive into the interesting stuff, as Nicolas said. So today it's all about retail, and it's all about the retail startup scene in Israel, because as you said, you are fast adopters, and lots of new interesting tech companies that I see in my tech world are coming out of this small country that is on the one hand small, but on the other hand has lots of intellectual capacity and talent, and companies like, I think, Dynamic Yield to have one recent example, or Bring. There are so many companies and startups that are relevant for our industry, retail. On the other hand, there are multiple crises. Yeah? So the whole world is kind of shifting from crisis like COVID to another crisis or war in Europe, in Israel, and we don't want to focus on that today. But and that's my point. I recently read an article on TechCrunch about the resiliency of the Israel startup market. So obviously this has no impact, or had no impact. At least the article said that. So maybe, Yael, you can fill us in. How is the reality?
Well, it's not accurate that it had no impact. And of course, you know how it is with the media. They always highlight the extreme stories. But life in Israel is honestly very tough since October 7. I mean, I went to the beach today with the kids, and on the way home on the radio, we heard that there was a rocket falling on a beach not far from where we were. So people are still, and that shows, the resilience of the people. We don't hide in our homes. We still go out and we go to the beach. But everyone really has a connection to someone who's either kidnapped in Gaza, or someone who was killed, or someone who is doing reserve duty, and you have to worry for their safety. You wouldn't find one person in Israel who is not directly connected to one of those people. And it's on the one hand, it's hard to concentrate on work. On the other hand, this is also kind of like our luck, that we have. We're in this startup ecosystem. We're very passionate about what we do, and so it kind of allows us to escape reality in a way, and to really focus on the work and on the value that we can build through our work, right? Because if this war ends and the economy breaks and all the startup companies are dead, we wouldn't be able to continue. So we see it as a way, I did an army service. I did reserve duty back in 2006 in the Second Lebanon War, and now I have kids. Women in Israel don't go to reserve once they have kids anymore. But this is my way of contributing to the country, right? If I continue building companies, providing jobs to people. Today, a report came out that said that the high-tech sector in Israel is contributing, I think, 36% of the income to the Israeli state in terms of, taxes that people pay and the companies pay. So this is really the force that is driving the country. So we really see it as kind of like our life mission to really stay on track and continue building and making an impact and driving value. So, so there's that. And if you look at funding, for example, so, on the one hand, investors are kind of sitting on the fence, waiting to see what will happen in the next while. But the report from IBC, which is kind of like the data company that is collecting all the data about the funding, and also Startup Nation Central, say that in H1 this year, we already raised more than $5 billion, which is the amount raised the entire of last year. So, even with the whole situation, we're still strong and continue building.
But where's this? Sorry, Nino, but where's this money coming from? Is it mostly investors from Israel, or is it Silicon Valley? Is it classic VCs? Like who are the people that are actually, or the institutions that are actually funding in this kind of scale?
So it's mostly VCs, but you need to remember that the VCs have LPs. So even if the VC is Israeli, most of the LPs are outside of Israel. Also constitutional, all the pension funds and all of that, they're investing in VCs. But most of the money is coming from VCs.
And those are global VCs, or because I think in the article it also said at some point the Israeli government is jumping in or jumped in last year. I couldn't really remember.
Yeah, the Israeli government has the Innovation Authority, which is the budget there is not that high, but if you split it among a lot of different small companies with the massive amounts, the majority of the $5 billion, this can be a little bit misleading because 56% of that money went to what we call mega rounds. So, companies that raised billions or hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not really representing the really early stage. The pre-seed companies are, a very small part of that 5 billion. This is where the Innovation Authority is coming into the picture. So they're basically providing very small funding, but at the crucial stage of where the company is just starting out. Earlier this year, they launched a new fund to help companies that have been hurt by the war, either because they're not able to sell as much as they used to, or because some of their employees, are not able to work anymore. And with Bywit, we were also able to get some of that funding as well. Also, companies like Google, for example, decided to give. It's not even an investment; it's a grant. They selected around 30 companies. What was interesting is that out of those 30 companies, 5 were in the retail space. So Bywit, Hexa, Shopper, Octop, I don't remember the fifth one, were, among those 30 companies. So, getting, and obviously Google did a lot of, due diligence and carefully selected those companies. So getting the funding from a company like Google is a great vote of confidence in addition to the funds themselves. Yeah.
Maybe for the listeners who probably don't know the startup market that well, or the tech startup market, you just mentioned Bywit, you just mentioned Okta, so single sign-on.
Octop, yeah.
Octop. Okay, can you maybe share a few other mega startups that are popular and upcoming in the Israel startup scene?
Well, mega and upcoming is two different things. In terms of the mega companies, you mentioned two. You mentioned the Dynamic Yield and Bring. There's also Globally, which is a cross-border solution for e-commerce. And they actually went public in Nasdaq a couple of years ago for $3.5 billion, one of the biggest IPOs from the Israeli market. So they're a huge company. We also have companies like Trigo, who is one of the leading solutions in the self-checkout. Yes, Trigo Vision, exactly. We have quite a few companies in the supply chain robotics space, like Fabric, 1M Robotics, who are doing a lot of great things in that space. So quite a lot.
So if we circle back to retail and commerce, because I think for our listeners, that's actually should be encouraging, especially what you said about the state fund. I think it could be an example also in Europe. Some of the countries are really struggling to keep their startup environments alive. But if we circle back to our topic around retail and also with your experience at BuyWith, so the e-commerce space is struggling a bit right now because in the end, the focus of investors has shifted a little bit, and it has such a high concentration of players right now that are basically making most of the revenue that for all the others, it doesn't really work as a growth channel anymore. So when it comes to video commerce, which was something, it was sort of like a very dear brainchild, and really like something that many of the department stores, the multi-category retailers were heavily investing in. What momentum do you see there right now? We know that TikTok is gaining a lot of momentum, but in the end, TikTok doesn't need BuyWith. So what would you see from your perspective running that company or running the marketing of that company right now is the momentum in the video commerce space, and where do you see the growth and the relevancy of it?
Well, first, can you be surprised that e-commerce is not growing as much as we expected? I mean, let's be honest, e-commerce is boring. You go to a website, you see a bunch of pictures, you need to scroll through them. It's very daunting to actually go and find the product that you're looking for. I mean, the only shopping that is easy is maybe grocery shopping, because you always buy kind of the same things and you can just copy paste the list that you purchased last time, maybe change some things and that's it. But what's the fun about that? Where is the discovery? Where is the experience? Where is the excitement? I mean, when you go to a mall or when you go to a physical supermarket, you get, new product insertments, and you get all kinds of different activities and experiences that the retailers are working on. When you go to a website, it's always the same thing. I mean, maybe the design will change a little bit. Maybe they will have a new feature, a new button, a coupon code with 10% off. I mean, what's the excitement about that? And if you look at conversion rates, no wonder conversion rates online are horrible. I mean, when you go to a physical store, there is a very high probability that you will go out with a bag in your hand and, go home with a product or two or more. When you go into an online store, 98% of the people don't buy. They just go into the store and look around and leave after 2 minutes. So something is not working there. And if we look at, honestly, we already talked about how old we all are with the, 368 computer. We're not the target audience that retailers are looking at. They're looking at younger audiences and Gen Zs and even younger. And those people are used to video content. And you mentioned TikTok. TikTok is educating the market to only rely on short, snappy content that you can go in, you get excited, and you get the information you need and you buy, even if it's a product that you were not planning on buying, which is exactly the same effect like going to a mall, right? You go to the mall for one thing, then you kind of walk around between the stores and you see some stuff that you were not thinking to buy, and you go ahead and you buy them. And that's something that video commerce is kind of bringing into the online world, as well. And I think the main struggle with video until now was that it was very, very difficult to produce, right? It's very expensive. You need to go to a studio and hire actors and all of that. And now with, today with influencers and UGC content and AI that is, making it easier to create that content, there's no excuse anymore. I mean, I think a retailer or brand that doesn't incorporate video into their strategy, but not as a nice to have, not as, let's post something on social once a week. No, you have to really transform your entire store to be video based, to give people the kind of experience that they're looking for, to get them excited about your products. So I think that's where it's going.
But isn't that the same issue with having a website just transferred to a new format? Because if you use TikTok, for example, and new features like TikTok Shop that will be probably released in Europe soon, they have the audience and it's easy to monetize that. But on the other hand, your brand website, if you're a fashion brand and you don't have the same traffic and the same audience as TikTok has, so nobody knows that you start streaming now. So how do you see that? Is it just the same problem but transferred to another medium?
Not exactly, because if you really not do it as a side thing on your website, but really transform your website, people will go into the website and they will see that you have video content on the website. And the thing is with the retailers and brands, they don't like to give their data and their customers to another platform. With TikTok, I mean, TikTok is great and honestly, we're very lucky that they're investing so much in educating the audience for us. But at the end of the day, the brands want everything to be on their brand.com website. They want to keep the data. They want to be able to control the branding, to control the experience, the checkout. I mean, having a TikTok shop is great, but it's not replacing the .com website. The solution is, how do we integrate the two experiences? How do we, on the one hand, we need to be on TikTok because that's where the audience is, and we need to build a TikTok shop and to invest in content there, which, by the way, is another struggle, right? Because if you have a TikTok shop and all of TikTok is only based on videos, you have to create that video content also for TikTok. So it doesn't matter if it's on your website or TikTok, you have to invest in video. But then why only invest in video for a third-party platform, which, by the way, I mean, hopefully not, but might be gone every day. We don't know what's, happening with the regulation and all of that. You can't really rely on a third-party platform to be your entire strategy. It can be part of your strategy, but the core of your strategy has to be your own website. This is the only place where you can control the experience, you can control the quality, you can control everything, right? So you need to be able to integrate the same type of experience that shoppers like to experience on platforms like TikTok into your own platform.
So a question around that, if you look at your customers maybe, who would be a perfect best practice from your point of view for today's opportunities and options? So basically based on capabilities that you could have today, looking at your customers, who would you say is doing a really good job of doing a 360 video-based approach towards retail?
Honestly, none of them yet, because again, this is very new, right? And we all know that retailers take a long time to change their strategy. We are working with very big companies, with Fortune 500 companies. It's not, SMBs that can turn their entire strategy in a few days. So it takes time, and you do have to understand that video commerce is not. It's not a quick win, right? You're not going to produce one video and become a billionaire overnight. It's really a long-term strategy. You have to really invest in it. But we do see the results. And by the way, we're seeing amazing results with taking some of those short videos that we use AI to create, using them on paid media. I don't know if you're aware, but the return on ad spend right now with paid media is not very high. It's around 3 to 4 times your budget. We've been able to see between 10 to 15 times the budget with those short videos that were created from longer videos. We just use AI to really kind of cut those videos into very short, very engaging videos. And this is really a proof that this is what the audience likes. We even, we have this one brand was a very, very niche brand. And they sell kind of like supplements and things like that, which is, harder to sell online if you're not a very known brand. And it took us a couple of weeks to start seeing success there. But today we just got the news that those shoppable videos are surpassing any other type of strategy that they have. So it's not just about, kind of like the big brands that are well known, but it can also help all kinds of businesses.
Cool. So basically, first of all, everyone who's listening, check out BuyWith. I think there's a lot to be learned. And Yael is on LinkedIn. So if you guys are interested in the coolest video commerce platform, there might be something there for you. If we look past video commerce and also at the struggles many retailers have today. So looking at, I myself am a CDO of a department store chain, so I see it in real life every day. Right now, especially traditional retail, when you look at the mid-market, at least on the European markets, they're struggling big time. They are facing somewhat of a return to the store, but foot traffic, especially in summer, also hasn't been great. Many fashion brands are struggling. At the same time, there is the rise of Temu and Shein that is not, you can't ignore it. It does happen. So if you look at the investors right now, it's probably not the traditional retail formats that are looking into investing. Where do you see sort of the money flowing into right now? Is it more like the cybersecurity cases? Is it still the Gen AI, which everyone is after? If you look like investment cases, especially maybe retail adjacent, where do you see like stuff happening right now?
So honestly, investors were never that much into investing in retail tech. Investors don't like to invest in retail, because they don't know anything about retail. B, because to be honest, with retail, sales cycles usually are quite long. Selling to a retail company takes time. And then at the end of the day, the average order is not that high. So for VCs to invest in retail, it's not sexy. As simple as that. Luckily, retail tech is actually kind of overlapping some other areas that are considered more relevant for investors. For example, the entire, payments, fintech area. And, obviously retail is driving a lot of the economy and the whole kind of payments part of it, whether it be in-store payments, online payments, and all of that. It's a huge part of retail. And that is an area that investors really like to invest. Israel particularly is quite strong in that space. The two strongest areas for Israel are cybersecurity and fintech. So I see a lot of companies that even though, let's say, 80, 90%, sometimes 100% of their customers are in the retail space, they don't call themselves a retail tech company, but they call themselves a fintech company. So that's one way to get investors' attention. Another area that is... Exactly. Another area that is overlapping is logistics and supply chain. Obviously, that's another key area for the retail space, which is very strategic. And we see more investments there in that space as well, because there also the average sale is higher. It might still be a longer sales cycle, but if you're selling warehouse automation, at the end of the day, it's going to be a very big deal. So it's not like selling, let's say, a conversion optimization tool for e-commerce, which usually is a smaller deal.
I think it's super interesting because in the end, what you're saying, if I get you right, is that basically a lot of investment is going into technology that then has retail as clients, but the investment doesn't go into the retailer itself. So actually, at one point, the VCs must become interested in the retailers because if like all the retailers are struggling, there's no clients anymore for the technology they're investing in.
Yeah, we'll see.
But if we maybe peel off the wrapper and no matter if this is retail or it's fintech, would you say, because Nicholas mentioned Gen AI, what are the big topics beyond cybersecurity? Is it Gen AI, circularity, which is, I would say, matching quite well with logistics that you just mentioned? Maybe can you talk a little bit about that and give us some insights?
Sure, and yeah, definitely sustainability when you're talking about sustainability, because the logistics and supply chain are so wasteful, every kind of innovation and advancements that you add there will obviously help the sustainability part as well. And this is, by the way, why our next and our last Retail Disrupt event for this year, which is on September 4th. I don't know if before or after this episode is going to be aired, but it's going to be about sustainability and supply chain. So for us, they go very well together. We do have some startups in Israel around circularity and sustainability. For example, Renbees and Tulo are two startups that are in the kind of rental space. Renbees is more focused on baby gear and fashion, where Tulo is more focused on just home appliance and, things that you need to fix stuff in your home and things like that. So two different markets. So we do see a little bit of that. Also sustainable materials. Energy is a very strong area in Israel. So all the startups that are working on sustainable energy solutions, for them, it's not just obviously for the retail industry. It could also be for transportation and Industry 4.0, but there is a lot of overlap there as well, because at the end of the day, retailers also have industrial parts in the business, right? Because some of them have their own factories, and if not factories, then warehouses. Another area to look at in terms of sustainability is packaging. So we have a few companies like Tipa and some other ones that are working on sustainable packaging solutions. And another area is waste reduction. So we have companies like Todos and some other ones that are trying to help retailers keep the food safer during the supply chain, and to really try to anticipate the conditions and which fruit and vegetables are going to go bad, and really help to reduce the waste during the whole process of bringing the supply from the farms to the warehouses, from the warehouses to the supermarkets, from the supermarkets to the homes, and all of that. So I think those are really interesting areas. In terms of Gen AI, I mean, Gen AI is very broad, right? It's a technology that can really be implemented anywhere in the value chain. It can be implemented in the supply chain. It can be implemented in the data and analytics part. It can be implemented in the customer experience. We at Bywit use Gen AI for the production of the videos. It can really be anywhere. So it's not like there is an investment in Gen AI for the sake of Gen AI. You really have to find the use case where it's working and where it's needed. A few of the really good companies that we're seeing in the Gen AI space are AI 21 Labs, that was created by serial entrepreneurs, and they're not only focusing on the retail market, but this is one of their markets, and already working with some big companies in the space, helping them create models and create content automatically for the websites and things like that. And another interesting company is Bria AI, which is doing something similar, but for visual content. So they're basically helping brands create visual content that is brand relevant, but also that is legally good for them to use, because this is one of the problems with Gen AI is the whole IP part, and you never know where the Gen AI is taking the inspiration from and whether it's legal for you to use that. But using a solution like Bria, which is kind of like working in a closed environment within the brand guidelines and within all the restrictions, is not only keeping your company safe from potential lawsuits, but also, really helping you to find your own kind of voice inside of the whole. So it's not like you using like a random tool from the web. So those are some interesting use cases.
And if I summarize a little bit, you mentioned a few core elements of a retailer alongside the value chain, supply chain, where you manufacture the products, lots of efficiency gains. You mentioned food waste in the delivery, where you reduce the write-offs because you deviate the shipment or whatever you do. And then another big area of efficiency gains you could realize is what you just said, content. I think Nicolas can talk ages about that as a CDO, producing content for e-com, for digital marketing. If you want to do a personalization strategy, I think you need content to deliver on your promise of personalization. But this is all, I would say, if I get it and understand it right, efficiency gains. Do you also see more improvements on the experience side? To your point earlier, 99% of the websites are boring. It's a grid view, it's a search, it's a filter, but where's the experience? Do you see that also coming?
Definitely. There are quite a lot of startups that are offering, personalization solutions that are based on AI, things like also improved UX. So obviously, and Nicolas can testify here, a lot of marketers are busy trying to improve the website. And if we just, move that button here or change the color for this button or, or all those things, we can slightly improve the conversion. The thing is that it takes a lot of time. And there are some tools, for example, a very, very new startup is called Moonshot AI. So they're actually doing this automatically tweak as well. It's kind of like dynamic yield, but on steroids. So it finds areas on your website that are opportunities for improvement, and it runs experiments just on its own to make the whole experience and the flow better for the customers, and then based on the result, just decides which version to keep and moves on to the next test. So this is just one example.
And maybe to add to all of that, I think the interesting part about AI is it's the toolkit you have right now already is gigantic. What most companies struggle to do is narrow down their cases enough so that they can actually bring them to life. So they expect AI to do everything everywhere all at once, but that doesn't happen. You still have to decide what you want the tool to do. So even though the tool can actually transform itself into a drill in one moment and into a hammer the next, you still need to understand, am I trying to put a nail into the wall or am I trying to drill a hole? And that's something many companies are struggling with. Yael, from the cases you've seen so far, what was the most impressive use case that actually drove value in a company that you've seen? So is there something you could name?
Good question there. I can't think of any specific example. I have seen, for example, a case study where Bria, which I mentioned before, we're working with I think it was Lidl, and they were actually offering end consumers to use the technology to create different designs that were based on the brand colors. It adds a lot of value in terms of marketing and more maybe PR and excitement around the brand. Does it really add value in terms of sales? I don't know, because I'm not working for Lidl. I'm not exposed to the numbers, but I think that's where that's going to be the next step. Right? Because companies today are kind of like experimenting with AI and trying to do cool things with it, which is great. When you have a new technology, the first thing that you want to do is you want to try to experiment with it and to try different things, different use cases. But I think we're slowly going towards phase 2, where we're going to start having more KPIs and try to be more, to have an organized thought process into what we're actually trying to achieve here. Like you said, Nicolas, very well. Are we trying to dig a hole or put the nail in the wall? It's like two different things. And then how fast can we dig those roles? And will it be faster with AI or more efficient with AI or not? Because For some things, AI is great. For other things, we still need to have the human creativity and the human touch involved.
So, like you mentioned, maybe the case of BioWith could be one, but you named these impressions, or you mentioned these impressive numbers in terms of ROAS, or however you guys measure your ad spend. But in the end, you saw through the simple sort of cutting down a video that has been pre-made, you saw a great use case for let's say, an automated tool. Is that something you built yourself, or are you relying on a software for it that you bought on the market?
So we build it ourselves, but obviously we're using a lot of third-party tools like ChatGPT and the AWS tools and things like that. But at the end of the day, the core of the technology is something we built in-house. We're lucky to have a really smart CTO and a really good technology team that, everything that we ask, they just build it in a heartbeat, which is amazing. To be honest, I haven't seen anything like that in other companies that I worked with in the past. But again, in order to really build not just cool things, but things that bring value, we need to have the right design partners from the retailers and brand side to be able to come and come to us with their pains and challenges. And one of the challenges that those companies came to us were, okay, great. So we're now doing videos and we're working with influencers, but we don't really see the ROI. I mean, it's great for awareness. It's great for bringing some traffic to the website, but we really want to see the ROI, and we want it to be exponential. So when you're doing, let's say if you're doing a live stream shopping event, you need to spend resources to promote the event, right? And you need to bring some kind of an influencer or someone to host the event, and you need to pay them. So there is a lot of resources and budgets that are going into that. And then at the end of the day, even if you're selling $100,000 in 15 minutes, that's great, but it doesn't really affect the bottom line of the business. But then if you take the same content that was already created from that live event and you're using AI, so you don't really need to invest any other resources in it to cut that into short shoppable videos, and then you put those videos on paid media and see 15 times ROAS, that's where the ROI is. So this idea didn't come, out of the blue. It came really from listening to the market and seeing where the challenges are.
I would say it's a great segue, Nino.
When you look at the value chain, because we just spoke about the value chain, where would you see the biggest value of Gen AI in retail? Is it the supply chain? Is it marketing? Is it sales? What's your perspective on that?
I think the biggest value add is in data, right? Because and from there you can take it to everywhere. You can take it to the supply chain, to the marketing, to the sales. The thing is, retailers really produce tons of data, and then it's so much data that you really don't know what to do with it. But if you really use AI, and by the way, another problem with that data is that the data is kind of scattered across different business units, right? So usually the data that you're collecting on your warehouses is kept in this WMS software, and the data you are capturing from marketing is on your marketing automation, and the sales is on another platform. So everything is in different platforms. The knowledge is held between the heads of different people in the organization. So I think that the basis is to really find a way using AI to bring all the data into one place and really come up with insights that are cross-functional. So, for example, I'm working with a startup called Bell AI. So they do demand forecasting based on AI. So they take data from the POS, from the WMS, from the CRM, from everywhere. And then based on that, they're able to predict not just what will be overstocked, but also what will be understocked. So that's really important because overstock is kind of easier, right? You see what you don't sell. But it's really hard to predict what demand is out there in the market that you're not able to provide because you don't have the products. So this is, what they're able to do. So I think this is a great example, and those insights are then taken to the merchandising team, to the sales team, to the marketing team. So those insights can really serve the entire value chain of the business.
Okay, interesting perspective. And I see the same as being or working at a CRM company. I think this is turning into a big data play now, unlocking data that is trapped in the hyperscalers, in the WMS system, as you said, in the POS system, bringing it together, because otherwise, crap in, crap out, the best AI can't help you if you don't provide a solid foundation. But I have actually a question to Nicolas. If you put on your CDO hat, what would you say, where should retailers start? Because I see many of retailers and brands struggling. And I think it's fancy and easy to gravitate towards the cool use cases that in the front end, the chatbot maybe that are actually selling now, or but there are so many other use cases that add value to the top or bottom line. What do you have tell us your rule of
well,
thumb?
You've known me for a while, Nino. So I always come up with the same basic set of things. What do we do as a retailer, especially when we look into e-commerce? We sell stuff. And to be very honest, the first necessity is a necessity many retailers don't really value or don't see. It is, if I put an item in a shop window, I will first of all make sure that item has been ironed. If we talk about a shirt, I will make sure there's a nice mannequin, and I will clean the window. And basically, what we're talking about here is basic master data hygiene. So I need good master data. No AI will help me with that unless I have like a properly structured base layer data set on my products. Then I need the right products. I need to select them properly, and I need the right market price for it. If you walk past a store and you see a shirt and it looks nice, and the store's name is H&M or whatever, Zara, and all of a sudden the shirt is priced at 250 euros, you will just walk past and you don't want to buy it anymore. So in the end, it's really about the basic properties of retail. You need to take care of your merchandise. You need to have it at the right point in time. You need to sort of like display it in the right way. And that's the first step that many ignore. So people go into these gigantic individualization, personalization cases, but their base data is wrong or missing or lacking. So they're really sort of facing a situation where all these fancy tools they're buying don't bring the yield they could, because what they're feeding them with is simply wrong or not kept well. So for me, what every retailer needs to check first is my basic process in order? Do I have a good process of digitizing my products? Where do I get my data from? Is my customer data structured well? Do I have the right segments? So really basic stuff that every retailer would like sort of instinctively do if it were about their stores, because there they do it. But somehow the digital world, especially for brick and mortar retailers, isn't always that intuitive. So for them, it's really the first task to sort of understand the basics and translate the basics that they know by heart, if you look at brick and mortar retail, to the digital world. And that's where it all starts. And then you can apply everything. Once you have a basic structured set of data, AI is a powerful tool. Once you have a bit of an idea of how you want to sell, what you want to sell, what kind of price you want to sell at, you have a lot of opportunity in technology to augment and to scale. But before that, you just need to, we need to do your homework in terms of data.
Amen. So rule of thumb, get your data in shape in any flavor, e-com data, merchandise data, and then you can start calling Yael and buy with and start with the fancy video content. You can go in the personalization use cases, but data is the starting point.
By the way, before we wrap it up, one thing for the audience. I think we have never had an episode where we mentioned so many cool companies you guys might want to look up. So what we are going to make sure of is that we're going to post a LinkedIn post or like do a LinkedIn post where we name all those companies and link them. So you guys don't have to go over the YouTube video to stop the video to find out what companies we're talking about. I think that's a good service from us to you guys. Apart from that, we have one wrap-up question for Yael. So imagine you're the CEO, the new CEO of a gigantic retailer named Walmart, whatever, Carrefour, one of the really big ones. what's the technology or the task you invest your time and money in first? So what's the first thing you do?
I think the first thing I would do is I would invest in the technology for supply chain, because I think this is where the biggest pain is in terms of just plain money. And if you want to show fast results and you want to turn a company and cut expenses, this is where I would start. I wouldn't start with fancy robots for warehouses and things like that. I would start from, like we said before, I would start from data. So another cool company to add to the LinkedIn post is Flamingo. So they actually use either existing cameras or they install cameras inside of warehouses, and they don't change anything. They just analyze what's going on the warehouses, and they give you the insights to what can you change to make the throughput much higher. So from the same resource you have to make more money, and then also where are you losing your inventory, right? Because I was a logistics officer in the army, and I know how things get lost in warehouses. Even if you have AI and even if you have robots, you're still going to have mistakes. Somebody put something there and then somebody else thought it's something else and moved it, or whatever. So you need to really be able to find all of those mistakes and correct them. So I think this is where I would start.
Cool. Very interesting perspective. And I mean, you mentioned Shein earlier. Shein is one of the hot retailers out there at the moment. And why? Because they bring demand and supply very close to each other, because they can react in no time. They anticipate trends. They create trends powered by AI. And I think that also reduces waste, by the way, because we talked about circularity, but that also matches your answer. Invest in supply chain first to get more reactive and agile. Thanks for that, Ms. CEO.
Great.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I will have a new job tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you, Yael. That was really insightful. So I'm definitely up to speed on the Israel tech market, and not only the retail tech market, but the tech market in general. And I would love to come back to that and have maybe another session on that.
Yes, please.
Cool. Thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Any closing wisdom?
Closing wisdom. No, I think it's good. I think we've produced a lot of good content for people to listen to. Thanks for tuning in. Let's make sure you follow us on all the relevant channels, and let's talk soon.
All the best to you, Yael. Bye-bye.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
The
Bye.
Retail Reality Show with your hosts, Martin and Nino, is presented by Blank and Salesforce. For more information, check out our website, retailrealityshow.com.